Been a long time since we've been back here, am I right? But if I recall correctly, there's a story here that needs a conclusion. For those of you who've missed it, we'll link the first part somewhere so you can go watch it. So if you've not seen it or merely need to catch up, pause the video and go take a look. We'll still be here when you get back. For those of you still around, let's get started. But first, welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, only 25% of our viewers are subscribed. So if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check if you are subscribed. And with that out of the way, let's get into it. Naruto laid in his bed, the moonlight shining in through the window. He'd been working all day, and despite all of that, he still wasn't tired. He didn't know why, but he just couldn't bring himself to sleep. Tonight, all he could do was think about the future. Think about some old memories and buried words he had heard a long time earlier. He didn't know who said them or why, but there was a plea. He could barely understand them, but as he had slept the past few nights, he'd witnessed a dream. A man standing there holding him. An infant version of him. Who had it been? Was it his father? No, it couldn't have been. Naruto knew who his father was. This man had brown hair, his voice nothing like Naruto's. Naruto could hardly remember what he had said, yet all the same he was somehow obsessed with it. He needed to know. So he laid there, trying to sleep in hopes that the words might reveal themselves, but this was easier said than done. Night was going strong, and it was at its darkest point, the witching hour. It was at this hour, or this grouping of hours, 2 a.m. to 4, when the veil separating worlds was at its thinnest. An old wives' tale to be sure, but one in a world so fantastic that one could never really true anymore what was legend and what was true. Naruto laid there and managed to somehow get into a semi-lucid state. A state at which much of his mind was painfully aware of his surroundings, while as of yet still in another world. A world of dreams. Such a dark dream. Not in plot, it was literally dark. Wisps of light sat upon a dark surface, as if his imagination were playing out as spilled ink on a black canvas. But he was able to, from the infinite ethereal pool, pull the remnants of the dream. He saw the man holding him. "Please, save my people," he said. Suddenly he saw the man shove a syringe into his little infant neck. A golden glowing light shot from every opening in his face as a bolt of lightning struck. When the light had settled, Naruto saw himself, but he was massive, and with a maw filled with razor-sharp teeth. He devoured Grisha whole. Naruto felt it all. He felt Grisha's pain and resignation. He felt the teeth severing limbs and organs. Naruto woke with a start and a scream. As he did so, he thought he saw the specter of a little girl in his room. In her eyes, a soulless, pale, empty gaze. He panicked a second time, screaming for his life. He took the pillow that had been below his head and threw it at her, only for it to collide with the wall, the girl having disappeared into nothing. It was then that Jiraiya rushed into the room. "What's wrong? What's going on? Are you okay?" The three questions hung in the air for a good few seconds. Naruto was covered in sweat. The room felt like a sauna due to its small, closed-off nature mixed with Naruto's perspiration. Naruto looked half ready to climb the wall. "Pervy Sage, He looked as if he were about to cry. "I saw the devil." "Now calm down, Naruto. You were just sleeping." "No, I wasn't. It was right there where my pillow is. I'll never forget her face." "Her?" Naruto looked back to Jiraiya. "A blonde girl wearing rags, eyes without a soul, expression without joy or sorrow, just lifelessness. I dreamed about the day of my birth and killing the doctor who delivered me. I felt my own teeth tearing through his flesh." Jiraiya sat there and listened. "Naruto, listen. When you go to sleep, the brain does a lot of weird things. And sometimes when we have nightmares, it pulls up our worst fears and makes us see things we don't want to. And even when we think we're awake, certain parts of our mind aren't and we continue seeing things." Naruto lay back in his bed and covered his head with the sheets. "I wasn't dreaming. I saw her, real as I see you, and I've seen her before." Jiraiya sat down by Naruto's bedroll. "You have? When?" he asked. "Ever since my first transformation all those years ago, I've caught glimpses of a girl, a ghost in the distance, following me. When I came here, I saw her in the forest. Every night before bed, I see her eyes peering back from the underbrush. But tonight was the first time she's ever been in my room with me. Am I cursed?" Jiraiya placed his hand on Naruto's shoulder. "Are you gonna be okay?" Naruto did not answer. Jiraiya decided to get his other bedroll and bring it into Naruto's room with him. He would roll it out and lay down in it, just to be in the same room as Naruto as to give some comfort. He would then place tags above the doorframe and window. These tags were given to him by an old shrine priestess who he had known a little too well in the past. She told him that they had the ability to ward off evil spirits. Jiraiya never put much stock into such things. He had never once seen a spirit in his home, so why would he use them? But for some unknown reason, he never could get rid of them, and maybe now was a good time to use them. After all, if there really were a ghost in his house, why not use them for their intended purpose? All of this together managed to help Naruto feel calmer and safer. It took him quite a bit longer, but he did eventually get to sleep. The morning after, however, Jiraiya would get a letter from Hiruzen, telling him that Naruto would be sent back to Konoha. Jiraiya didn't question it. He knew that a group of monsters like Naruto were hunting Naruto, but all the same he knew that if Konoha wanted him back, then they must have some semblance of a plan. He told Naruto to pack his things and get ready to leave. The day thereafter, Naruto was ready to go. The two of them returned to Konoha. Naruto stepped through the gate. "We've been tasked with going straight to the Hokage's office," Jiraiya said. "No stops." Naruto nodded. The two made their way there in a fashion as to hide their presence. Once they got there, they met with Hiruzen and Kakashi, who welcomed Naruto back. Kakashi stood and walked over to pat Naruto on the back. "Welcome back, Naruto. You've gotten taller. How old are you now, 15? 16, Naruto said. Kakashi whistled. "You're growing up. Well, I'm glad to have you back." Hiruzen would then beckon him to come closer. "Naruto, I'm glad to have you back." "Why did you call me back, Mr. Hiruzen?" Naruto asked. "Because I felt that you would do better to be protected by more than just Jiraiya. Not to say that Jiraiya hasn't been good enough, but recently we've been investigating the Titans who have been attacking us, and we've determined that there are a lot more of them than the few we've encountered. As far as we can tell, besides you, there are 7 in the Land of Fire. We believe they're building influence in an attempt to attack. This has been seen due to a witness claiming to have seen them in a nearby quarry gathering materials to sell. We're planning to have a group of Uchiha to wait at the quarry to attack when they're not paying attention and cut off their escape. While we do that, we'll transport you via palanquin to the capital, where the Fire Daimyo is hoping to protect you with high-caliber shinobi and samurai." "So I have to go into hiding again?" Naruto asked. Hiruzen sighed. "Yes, but only for a little while, until we manage to capture the other Titans in the quarry raid mission, and that hopefully won't take too long. But don't worry, the capital is a big place with a lot of things to do. It's not too dissimilar to Konoha, except it's far more developed, with most of its offerings being beyond the shinobi world. So think of this as more of an extended vacation before your return." Naruto let out a sigh. "Fine, I'll do what I need to do." As he said this, Naruto was unaware that there was an ear to the door listening in. Reiner Braun had overheard everything. This was one of the best parts about being a janitor in the Hokage's office. He had access to whatever he wanted, from documents to verbal information. And with this info, he planned to report back to the others. Reiner came to their little group's treehouse out in the middle of the forest. As he got up into it, he found the others doing their thing. Zeke had forgone reading a book for writing one. Having grown tired of going over the same novel over and over again, he decided to take this time to write one of his own and fulfill his lifelong dream of being a novelist. He was currently working under a pseudonym so as to hide his true heritage from any reader. Surely the thought of reading an Eldian's novel would automatically turn others off, but if he could deny his name for but a moment and contribute positively to his culture and society, it was a necessary sacrifice. Annie was currently working on her training regimen with the help of Marcel, with Berthold not far away watching on. "How was that kick?" Annie asked. Berthold smiled. "They get sharper and sharper with every cycle," he said. It was no secret now that the two of them had started a bit of a relationship together. It was sweet to Reiner's eyes, but Laura Tiber, the de facto leader of their little group, taking over from even Zeke due to her connection to the prestigious Tiber family, had told them to keep control of themselves, as what mattered most right now was their mission. One that they would complete without being held back by personal feelings. She was currently tending to some chores. All things considered, she couldn't escape herself, just as nobody else could escape themselves. Reiner rushed in and began to relay information to them. "We can't return to the quarry. Konoha has discovered our presence there and has set a trap should we return." Zeke looked back from his paper. "Well, that's fine. There are plenty of other quarries around that we can go to, and I'm sure that there are plenty of other ways to make money. We possess powers considered extraordinarily powerful in this world. There's no limit to what we can do to procure funds. Thank you for telling us, but it's hardly something to panic over." Reiner shook his head. "No, that's not it. I have more news. Naruto has returned to Konoha and is planned to be moved out of the capital of this country via palanquin in a few days' time. This is our chance to capture the founder, and with it, our chance to return to Marley." The entire group was looking at him now. Zeke sat there thinking. "Interesting." Lara then spoke up. "We will strike as soon as possible." Zeke looked to her. "Now, wait a moment. We can't just rush in. We need to think this through. Lara looked to Zeke. No, we will not waste this chance. We know where the Founding Titan will be. We'll assault them with overwhelming force and take it for ourselves. Then we'll return to Marley with him. The mission comes first, regardless of any one person's safety. If we all have to die to complete this mission, then that's what we'll do. Zeke was floored. With all due respect, Miss Tiber, while I appreciate your convictions, I am the one of the two of us with military experience and training. Before you came, I was indeed the war chief and the supreme commander of the warrior unit under Lord Tiber, she said. You will heed my orders. Failure to do so will be considered treason. Zeke grit his teeth but gave in with a sigh. You heard her. Be ready to complete the mission no matter what. The day had come. They were currently waiting. With Konoha's forces split between the quarry and this place, they would not have enough manpower to fight off all the warrior unit at once. Zeke looked at the others. Marcel, Annie, Reiner, you three will rush the palanquin and take Naruto. Both I and Miss Tiber will cover you from the distance with projectiles. Piak will be there to support Bertolt and vice versa. She's been outfitted with a long-distance artillery cannon, which she and Bertolt can further use to support with projectiles. And should they continue to move in that direction, Bertolt's Colossal will cut them off. We'll be using the Star of David formation. Piak will be at the northernmost point, while I'll be in the southeast and Lady Tiber in the southwest. Reiner will come in from the south, while Marcel and Annie will come in from the northwest and northeast, respectively. Any questions? Annie raised her hand. Zeke pointed to her. What is it, Annie? If Naruto uses his Titan to fight back and we determine that he cannot be taken alive, do we have authorization to neutralize him in a more permanent fashion? Zeke sat there for a moment and looked back at Lara. Lara nodded. You may. If Naruto is killed, then the Titan will either transfer to one of us or will transfer to an Eldian in Marley. Either way, we'll return the Founding Titan to our country. However, it is preferable that we bring him in alive, as it will keep us from possibly having to search for his Titan later on. Annie nodded. Zeke would stand. All right, everyone get in position. I'll fire off a green flare when it's time to begin the assault. Keep your eyes to the skies. And so they all went off on their way. They kept their eyes open. And as soon as Zeke saw the palanquin coming through, he waited until they were squarely at the center of the forest. He would raise the flare to the skies and wait until they were in the position that they wanted them in. He'd fire off the flare. And with that, 5 golden bursts of lightning would strike out of the blue. Annie, Reiner, and Marcel would push the center, while Zeke, Lara, and Piek, with Bertolt's help, were prepared to offer support. The 3 fastest of the 9 Titans swept through and gripped the palanquin, ready to take it. Suddenly, a group of Uchiha members formed their Susanoo. Zeke, standing there in his Beast Titan form, would pick up boulders and begin lobbing them in the direction of the Susanoo. Lara, with her crossbow, would do the same, striking Susanoo as shells from Piek's Cart Titan came out of the blue and struck them as well, causing them to fall to pieces. Reiner and Annie in their armored and female Titans would cover for Marcel as his Jaw Titan took up the palanquin and made away with it. Once he'd taken it, he moved to a location and opened the palanquin to confirm Naruto being in his possession, only to find that the palanquin was empty. Marcel, realizing that Naruto had never been here before, began to wonder what they had planned. He would suddenly realize that the likelihood that this was a trap had skyrocketed incredibly. He would pull himself from the nape of his Titan and would pull his own flare gun into the air, firing off red smoke. This told Zeke that something was severely wrong and the mission was to be aborted immediately. But as soon as he realized this, a massive explosion from the north echoed out, as Bertolt's colossal Titan rose above the tree lines. It was obvious that he was under attack. It only took moments longer for Zeke himself to be assaulted by a squad of Susanoo. These Susanoo came at him with armor and weapons. These were the most elite of the Uchiha, their Susanoos having been fully completed. Something Zeke had heard was impossible with the time it took to perfect it. No, wait. Their Mangekyo should be blinded by here. But wait. There was a Mangekyo type that had limitless time to be utilized, the Eternal variant. Had the Uchiha been planning this attack for that long? While the Beast Titan was more than capable of dealing with a Susanoo or two, a perfected Susanoo was well beyond his grasp, as it possessed items and weapons that could cleave through his flesh. Certainly Reiner would do a lot better with his hardening, but as it stood, Zeke only had limited hardening. Lara's Warhammer would likely fare better here, but there was another bolt striking the ground, an 8th Titan. Naruto was on the field, and he was near Lara's location. These shinobi were every bit as smart as they'd been given credit for. Zeke attempted to escape, and the only way he could do that was by rushing deeper into the battlefield, toward Annie and Reiner. Reiner would break a hole through the line with them and increase their chances of attack. They would need to rush for Bertolt, who was physically the strongest, and the most likely to take out his targets, not to mention that Piek was there as well. And so Zeke headed for the center of the battle as the walls closed in around them. This was a genius plan, and it was one that Zeke anticipated would come about. But Lara, in her infinite stubbornness, refused to listen to him. He made it to the center where he met up with Reiner, Annie, and Marcel, and so far there was no sign of Lara. The Susanoo were incoming, and so Zeke commanded the others to flee anyway. The mission was lost, and what mattered most now was that as many survived as possible. And if Lara were even half as smart as Zeke knew she was, she would know how to escape, just as he had. The four of them made their way toward Berthold's Titan. Just as they'd believed, they found Berthold, and found that he had already decimated the Susanoo near him. Now that the hole had been punched, it was time to escape. Zeke, Annie, Reiner, and Berthold got out of their Titans and climbed atop Pieck and Marcel's Titan. "Where's Lara?" Reiner asked. Zeke looked around and saw not only the Susanoo coming in, but Naruto's attack Titan too. "She's dead. Go." And so the Titans rushed off into the distance. They managed to escape, leaving Naruto alone with the Uchiha. Naruto looked down at his Titan. He felt like he wanted to vomit. He had blood dripping from his mouth. It wasn't his. He had eaten the Warhammer Titan. That had been the plan all along, and now he felt its power coursing through his veins. The Warhammer had been the most versatile, and with its power, they could likely turn the tide of this war, but this wasn't the only thing they had gained. Having returned to Konoha, Naruto felt truly sick to his stomach. He knew it was something he had to do, but the idea of cannibalism, which he had to just partake in, had left him completely without appetite, slightly traumatized. Kakashi would try and comfort him by telling him that he sometimes would have to do things on the battlefield that he didn't want to do, and that sometimes these things would result in him losing many a night's sleep. Naruto understood the gravity of the shinobi world and the hatred within it. Hatred truly was the fuel which lit the fires of war. In the days following, however, Naruto would be brought to Hiruzen's office. There he would wait. "What's going on?" Naruto asked. Hiruzen looked at him gravely. "Today we're going to apprehend another Titan. I want you to be nearby, Naruto, just in case something goes wrong." Naruto was confused. "Wait, another Titan?" Hiruzen nodded. "It's come to my attention that we've had a Titan in our midst the whole time. The previous mission was a ploy, an attempt to draw them out, and we did exactly that. We now know of another Titan who is undercover, and we're going to arrest him, and for that, I'm going to need your help." Naruto agreed to this. Hiruzen would put his finger on the intercom. "Send him in." Eventually, the door would open, and Reiner Braun would sit down. "What is it, Lord Third?" Hiruzen would turn around. "I wanted to talk to you about your part in the various attacks led by the Titans." Reiner's face went white as Naruto was shocked. "Wait, he's a Titan?" Suddenly, Itachi would dash from the shadows with a rope. He would gag Reiner forcefully and keep him from biting his own tongue. He would then wrap up his hands and feet. It was all over before Reiner could even tell what was happening. Hiruzen looked down. "I suppose I should rephrase that. I would like to inform you that we know of your true allegiances, and now we're going to take you to the Intel Division and have them search your mind for all relevant data to the threat of the Titans here in Konoha. You would do best to cooperate." Naruto was shocked. You're a Titan? Does that mean that you were one of the ones who helped kill my father?" Reiner tried not to make eye contact. Naruto stood there. "Why? What did I ever do to you? Why would you do this to me?" Reiner was starting to tear up. He looked over to Naruto, and with the gag still in the way he spoke. Despite the imperceivable nature of his words, they still knew what he was trying to say. "I'm sorry." Reiner had expected this. He knew that there was a chance his cover had been blown. Zeke had told him not to go back to Konoha, but Reiner had believed that he could still pass undercover. He now knew that Zeke was correct, but then again, he had never mistrusted the war chief, and just prior to entering the room, he had cut the palm of his hand open. Itachi realized this too late. As Reiner began to jolt with bioelectricity, Itachi jumped over the Hokage's desk and tackled Hiruzen, covering him with his own body and then covering them further with his Susanoo. Naruto took a few steps back as Reiner exploded out with energy. The armored Titan appeared and he fell to the ground floor. For a second, Reiner considered looking for Naruto, but he knew for certain that if Naruto was still conscious, or if he hadn't perished outright in the rubble, that it meant that he would surely turn into a Titan, and Reiner wasn't sure he could handle Naruto alone, so he prepared to leave. As he rushed off, a bolt of energy struck Naruto, causing him to transform as well. A large spike of hardened Titan flesh appeared in front of Reiner, stopping him from moving. He looked back to see the blonde Titan stepping out from the ruined building, steam emanating from his mouth and his entire body reverberating with a low-pitched growl. Reiner would turn back, preparing to fight. Naruto's Titan would slowly walk forward. He would then break out into a full-on sprint. Reiner would do the same until their fists clashed. Reiner's Titan normally possessed the advantage in strength and armor, though Naruto's Titan now possessed traits from the Warhammer. These allowed him to match Reiner in every way. He knew he was outmatched though, because Naruto possessed better taijutsu than Reiner easily. Naruto had been training as a ninja from the beginning of his life, all while Reiner had never made any strides to be anything more than a brawler. His Titan wasn't the most nimble. It was fast while running in a straight line, but its joints were heavily hindered by his armor. All the same, he knew that without some of his armor he would suffer. But with his armor, he was sure to be locking himself in a coffin, and so Reiner decided to try to play it smart. He ejected most of the armor across his body, particularly in his joints and anywhere that he deemed needless for this specific occasion. He kept the armor on his fists and on his face, but everywhere else he had ejected it. This would increase his speed at the cost of defense, so he needed to be the one to go on the attack. The armor on his hands grew spikes from the knuckles. He needed something to pierce through Naruto's armor, and despite the versatility of the Warhammer's armor, it was nowhere near as strong as the armored Titan's armor. Reiner tried to remember any of the moves he had learned from Annie. He pulled his hands close to his face, all while using his arms and elbows to cover any weak spots on his Titan's torso, such as the stomach. At current, Naruto knew that he and Reiner were evenly matched as Titans. Now that Reiner had foregone his armor, his speed would match that of Naruto's own Titan. This was about to be a true battle where victory could only be determined by which of them was smarter, and Naruto was certain that it was him. As Reiner's fist came through, Naruto dodged to the left and sent an armored jab right into Reiner's extended elbow. Reiner was quick though, and he knew that the longer his arm was extended, the more exposed he was. He tried quickly to pull his arm back to defend. Naruto's fist connected with his forearm, which hurt but didn't disable it. Naruto attempted to kick Reiner, but Reiner stepped into the kick. He knew he would take a shot from this, but was determined to limit the damage and put himself in a better position. Stepping in, he protected his torso, specifically his Titan's floating ribs, and proceeded to grab Naruto's leg, and then suddenly raised it. On only one foot, Naruto's balance was severely compromised. As Reiner raised the leg up, he pushed in Naruto's direction, causing Naruto to hop back once before both feet eventually went out from under him. Naruto was in a dangerous position now with Reiner on top of him. He had nowhere to go, and his striking room was severely limited by the ground taking up about 40% of the area around him. All he could do was defend. Maybe he had been underestimating Reiner. Maybe Reiner had been underestimating himself. As each punch came in, he felt Reiner's armor punching into the flesh of his forearm, cracking the bone. He couldn't keep this up. Naruto would try to grab the arm and wedge it under his own, where he would then use leverage and his own fists to threaten Reiner's elbow. With a twist and a push to his face, he forced Reiner off. Naruto would manage to stand. Reiner would be up in a moment too. He would try to go back in. He was swinging around Naruto's side and attempting to strike the liver. Naruto would feel it and nearly go down. Reiner came in, but was only stopped by a well-placed strike up into his ribcage, forcing the air from Reiner's lungs. Or so it felt. Most of the biological functions of a Titan were moot, but they still felt all the same. This gave Naruto a moment to recover. He would kick to the side of Reiner's knee, causing him to go down. He would get up and go around Reiner's back, where he'd proceed to put him into a tight headlock. Reiner would rightfully try to elbow Naruto in the side and would even put every ounce of horsepower in his legs to use by pushing back straight into a building, trying to jar Naruto loose. But Naruto held on with inhuman strength. This was the most dangerous place to be grabbed. Naruto pulled Reiner to the ground, keeping him from moving. He began forcefully wrenching his head in every direction, as hard and as far as he could, until he heard an unholy snap. He then rolled Reiner's Titan over on its face. He would proceed to rip into the nape until he saw the exposed Reiner. He would pull Reiner clean out. He looked up to Naruto. "I swear, I never meant for it to become like this, Naruto." Naruto pulled himself from the nape of his own Titan for a moment to speak. "Don't lie to me. From the moment you came to Konoha, it had to be this way." Naruto would deliver him to the Intel Division, and they'd begin to probe his mind, searching for the other warriors. They'd pin down a location and would send a squad there to apprehend them as well, but it was no use. They were already gone. They had likely figured out that Reiner had been captured, and so Reiner was nothing more than a prisoner to them, and they considered feeding him to Naruto so Naruto could gain his powers. But Naruto refused, telling them that Reiner could offer him nothing new besides his armored powers, which Naruto already had a pretty good version of. That, and despite everything, he couldn't bring himself to hate Reiner, and believed that if a good man resorted to atrocities, then he must indeed have a reason. The Hokage had survived thanks to Itachi. His office was totaled, however, and so he would move into his office in his own personal home. But it wasn't more than a day or so later that they would have a visitor, Zeke Yeager. Hiruzen would summon Itachi, and Itachi would move in after Zeke, though Zeke would hold up his hand. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Explain yourself, Hiruzen demanded. Zeke sat forward. I would be pleased to. Please, take a seat, Lord Hokage. Hiruzen would cautiously sit down. Zeke would begin to explain things to him. I was thinking that it'd be best to simply talk this out like men. After all, we're both civilized. There's no reason for us to come to blows. Hiruzen was skeptical. What do you want? In the very center of Konoha's most densely populated area, I have my colossal titan hidden, ready to vaporize everything. Let me ask, do you understand the concept of nuclear weapons? Hiruzen shook his head. It's theoretical science now, but it's hypothesized to exist. Zeke nodded. It's upcoming weaponry in my world. Let me say it like this. If I give my subordinate the order, he will transform. His transformation will yield an explosion worth 15 kilotons of TNT. Not enough to destroy all of your village, but definitely enough to severely cripple it and kill a large portion of your villagers. This blast zone will include the Uchiha compound. I've also planted other titans beyond myself and the Colossal near what we have determined to be your most precious clans. The moment that the Colossal explodes, your clans will face destruction from a sudden attack that they do not expect. Surely this will not end your village, and that's fine, but you will have taken enough damage that any small village from out of nowhere could contend with you. Hiruzen did not like the sound of this. They weren't prepared for this. What do you want? Zeke sat there and thought. I ask you to make 2 small sacrifices for the safety of your village. I want Reiner returned to us, unharmed, and I want Naruto. What's your obsession with Naruto? Hiruzen asked. He possesses a titan, an important titan, one that's known as the founding titan. We desire to have this titan back. It's an integral part of titanhood, and it is to us what your 10 tails is to you. We are no inherent threat to your village, nor are we a threat to your world. We are just a group of people who desire to have back something that was stolen from us. Upon returnal, you'll never see us again. Hiruzen sat there for a moment. Let's talk. Naruto was informed of the situation and the stakes. Hiruzen could not in good conscience sacrifice Naruto, so he felt the need to inform him, and Naruto agreed to it. He would be delivered to Zeke, who would ensure that he could not harm himself in any way. Together, the 2 of them would be allowed to leave. Once they were gone with Reiner, the other remaining warriors would catch up. Zeke would then attempt to enter the paths via Naruto's founder and would thus teleport them back to Marley. Naruto would be brought there and would finally see the world from which Reiner said he was from. It was awe-inspiring. It reminded Naruto of Konoha, but it possessed vehicles, and the soldiers all wore a different kind of uniform and carried large weapons, rifles as they were called. Naruto would be brought before an officer named Magath, who would deliver him to prison, where they would then wait to have his titan stripped. Naruto would sit there and simply look out the windows, but he wouldn't be alive for long. Zeke would walk in. Are you enjoying the view? What do you think about Marley? Naruto shrugged. It's a beautiful place. Zeke nodded. He came to the window and looked out. I love my country, and I love my people, but I don't love the divisions between them. He turned back to Naruto. I first wish to apologize for the troubles we've caused your village and your people, but the situation in Marley is dire. Naruto was confused. Zeke continued. After the last war, it became painfully obvious that the titans that Marley relied upon were slowly being overtaken by human ingenuity. Marley wished to have the founding titan back as a weapon with which to take the people, the Eldian people, and force them against their will to transform into mindless beasts to attack and then be discarded. That's horrible. Why would you fight for such a nation? That's slavery. Zeke nodded. Just over there's an internment camp. It's called Liberio. It's where my family lives. No Eldian is allowed to leave it without papers, and few get to. Only those with official business or military background can. And since Eldians generally are the only ones who can utilize titans, we were the ones sent after you. But I won't lie, I had my own agenda. Naruto raised his brow. Zeke continued. You see, the Eldians are the only ones who can use the titans. This means we have all the power, but the people of Marley, they make it so we have no power by taking it away from us. But the founder has the ability to set things right. Now, of course, there is no way that we could survive in this world. The world fears and hates us, and due to this, I had been determined to utilize the founding titans to euthanize my people, make it to where we could never have children again, and let our people slowly fade out of existence in the farthest reaches of Paradise Island, free and no trouble to anyone. Then, when we die, our power would die with us, but I don't want to do that anymore. What changed your mind? Naruto asked. You did, Zeke said. Your world. In your world, it's almost normal for people to have the sort of powers we have. Your people would conquer the world here, and I've heard of even stronger creatures, tailed beasts. They dwarf our titans. We're hardly a threat in your village. Only the Colossal so far has caused us to truly be feared enough to have them turn you over to us. I was wondering if maybe you would let us move to your world, Zeke asked. Naruto stopped for a moment and tried to process it. Wait, you want to come to our world? Zeke nodded. Would we be accepted there? Protected? Could we be free? Naruto almost seemed completely astonished by this. Yes. You need to ask? You've more than displayed your strength, and if I explain everything to Hiruzen, he'd happily allow you and your people to become a clan of Konoha, the Eldian clan. But why did you need to fight us, attack us, and capture me for this? Zeke turned his attention back toward the city. Lara Tiber was a loyalist. When you killed her, you freed me to have control again. I then opened up peaceful talks between me and Hiruzen. Well, as peaceful as a threat could be, I suppose. I needed you in this world with the Founding Titan. If I have it, any Eldian that exists will be teleported with us, and then with the paths removed from this world, we would be sealed there. Eldia would never threaten the world again. We could be free and happy. We don't have much time though. If you help us, I need you to decide now. If you let me, I can allow you to access the full power of the Founding Titan, and with it, you can do this. You are the founder, and I can't force you to do anything you don't want to do. But if you will, we can save my people. Naruto hardly had to think about it. Then let's do it. Zeke would free Naruto and touch his forehead. Together, their Titan powers mixed. Naruto's founder and Zeke's royal blood-powered beast. Together, they formed the Founding Titan, which caused all of Marley to panic. Be careful. We don't want to kill anyone, Naruto shouted. You're in control, Naruto. Just step carefully, Zeke responded. Naruto would let out a roar. All Eldians, Titan or otherwise, would be returned to human form, and then through the paths, he would teleport them all to the far outskirts of Konoha. At first, Konoha was terrified when they saw the massive 440-meter tall Titan in the distance, but Hiruzen knew exactly what it was. Naruto would then return to his human form along with Zeke. Zeke would look to Naruto. Go on, I'll explain this to the people. Naruto would nod and proceed to run toward Konoha, and there he would meet with Hiruzen and tell him everything. Hiruzen was skeptical at first. After all, many Konoha citizens had been killed by the Titans, including the 4th Hokage, Minato Namikaze. Naruto, however, would beseech him to reconsider, and given that out of everyone, Naruto was the one most affected by this, Hiruzen agreed. Together, Naruto would welcome the Eldians to the village, where they'd be free to build their own village nearby Konoha, and from that point on, Konoha and Eldia were close allies. After death, Naruto's Titans would pass on to someone else in Eldia, and the line of kings would continue. Eldia and Konoha would remain close, and during the war between the allied shinobi forces and the Akatsuki, the Eldians were a force that turned the tide of war. Peace would return, and freedom would reign for countless generations. And that's the end of the story. I hope you all truly enjoyed this one. Attack on Titan has always been an anime near and dear to me. It ranks as one of my all-time favorite anime. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a comment and telling us so. And if you've yet to subscribe, consider doing that as well. It's free and it helps us out a lot. Don't forget that if you ring that bell, YouTube will notify you when we drop another video like this one. And what's that? You can't wait until the next one? Well, why don't you try tiding yourselves over by checking out one of these videos here. Until next time, peace out.